Look at all the people. How cool. Although we're still not up to total population. Oh, somebody's breathing. Haven't heard heavy breathing for years. Well, except when I try to climb stairs.
Yeah, that happens to me too.
Sometimes when I'm, when we're on campus and I'm walking in from the parking lot, a student will come up and try to talk to me. And I have to make them stop. I can't talk when I'm walking. I'm fat and old. Talk to me when we stop. Yeah, we're still missing a few. Maybe they'll come in. I got up a little late this morning, so I haven't checked emails, nor have I gone to check and see if everybody's turned in their assignments. But as a reminder to you, if you have not already turned in your self-introduction outline with the link to your video, it would be a good idea to get it done. It was due last night. However, excuse me. However, I do have the assignment open until 11:59 this evening, until tonight, for late assignments. And I will make a decision about how many points how many points will be deducted based on how late the assignment is. If you wait until 11:30, 11:40 this evening, I will assume that you did the assignment today, so we're not done by the due date. Compared to somebody who's sitting up right now going, oh shit, I forgot to download it, and they jump off and download it or do it right after class. Those people will get very little in the way of deductions. Okay. So if you forgot
the outline, I'm sorry, do we have to turn in it with the video, with the video speech?
The outline is submitted with the assignment, and you should have at the bottom of the outline a link to where you have saved your video so that I can watch it without having to download it.
Okay.
Quick question.
Uh-huh.
The link that I had put on the doc that I had sent you, if it's not working, you could just copy and paste it, right? Or do you want me to send you like another link?
Did I tell you the link wasn't working? Because I haven't checked it yet.
I'm just to make sure. I don't want to like go through all the hassle.
Okay, well, we won't know if it's working until I go to grade. And at that point,
all right, for sure. No, I'm just worried.
Send it to somebody else and have them click on it. Or click on it yourself. See if it goes to the offline source.
For sure.
Offline, off your computer source, the online source. Wow. Well, we picked up one more. Oh well, that's life in the big city. Oh, you know what? I didn't publish for you. Hold on a minute, I have to disappear. Well, I'll still be here, but I'm not going to talk to you. I can't minimize. Oh yeah, how about this? Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. That's cool. Damn it, David. That's what happens when I get up late and rush around doing things. Okay, this will take another couple of seconds then. I have now published the documents for this assignment. Today we're going to start, or we're going to get the lesson speech assignment. So if you would take a moment and either open a second window to get those downloaded so that you can read the documents along with me, or if you have it set up for a printer, which most of you don't have it set up for a printer, you go ahead and print it off. Remember, I would very much recommend that you have the documents set up where that you can take notes in the middle of the document. Taking notes in a separate area is not nearly as effective as having the notes in context with the assignment itself. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to get that downloaded because I didn't publish it for you so you could, and then we'll get started on it. Okay. Every time I throw a tag question out like that, okay, I think in my subconscious mind, what if somebody says no? What am I going to do about it, huh? No, I don't want to download. Okay, don't. Because it's not my grade, right? It's your grade. Yeah, I probably won't start grading the self-intro assignments until tomorrow morning to give the people that are turning it in late a chance to get it turned in so I can grade them all at once, rather than moving back and forth and maybe forgetting that somebody had to turn it in later. Okay, so don't look for grades for those until tomorrow sometime. But once I get to them, they won't take all that long. That'll give me something to do on a Thursday, right?
I sent the homework assignment. I sent it to you. I don't think I sent it to your private to your private email.
Okay, then you should probably jump off and send it or upload it to the assignment. Click on the assignment. On the assignment page, there will be a button that says submit or submission or something like that. Submit assignment, and
Yeah, I
click
sent
on
it to there. Is that fine?
it. That's where it goes.
Okay.
Anything else before we get moving on this? I picked up a couple more late people. Okay. If you're just logging on, you should make the documents in the module available to you so that you can read along and take notes in it. Answers to questions. When I expound on something a little more in depth, you may want to take some notes in along with it. I should probably take this opportunity to yell at you a little bit. Not all of you, but I got quite a few. I got very few outlines for rough drafts in the week. And then Sunday and Monday, I got quite a few of them that were really not close to being done correctly, which means that those people procrastinated and then tried to just remember what the assignment was and do it that way, rather than using the guidelines and the examples to make their assignment acceptable. And of course, waiting so long that they couldn't really get a recheck on their work. So once again, not just for this class, but for every class, you should get started on your assignments as soon as possible. I know that all of you are working, you know, you have lives out there, but you have to start managing your time to get through this. You should be spending some time every day, whether it's at night, in the middle of the day, in the morning, whatever your schedule works for it. You should be spending some time every day on this class and every one of your other classes as well, okay? Waiting for the weekend and trying to get everything done is going to cause you to get unacceptable grades. You're not going to be happy with what your assignments, what your grades are on your assignments. So do it as quickly as you can. If your professor offers, like I do, offers to look at rough drafts for you, send it to them as quickly as you can. At that point, I and any other professor will be telling you exactly what we want you to do to get a better grade. Okay, we can't guarantee an A or anything for you, but I guarantee you that if you do what I recommended, your grade will be higher than if you don't do what I recommend. Because I'm telling you, these are my grading criteria that I'm looking for, and they're missing. Or this is wrong and this is wrong. You need to fix it so that it gets done well. I don't write it with those words. I write it in things like run on, comma splice, fragment, only one sentence. I write it that way, but it is me saying, this is wrong. You need to write it a different way if you don't want to lose any points on this, okay? So if a professor is willing to do that for you, yeah, I highly recommend you utilize them, because not all professors will look at rough drafts for you. They don't care. Well, most of us don't care that much anyway. It's a strange thing. I love you all dearly. You're up in the middle of the night, as far as I'm concerned, on Wednesday morning to attend this class. But with this, at that same time, I really don't care about your grade. It's not my grade. I have my degree. It's not hanging on the wall now because I moved some things. But it's sitting right up there. I have my degrees. I don't have to worry about that anymore. This is your degree. This is what you're working on. So you should get into it. Okay. All right. I'll be starting off with the assignment sheet, just making sure you know about the basic requirements of the assignment. Then we'll get on to the information sheet, where we will explain all of the components and how to write this particular assignment. Then we'll have the example of the outline here, that once again, you should be making your outline look like the example that I give you. Don't try to do things based on your memory or how you have done things before. I know that I have put it in writing. I know I've said it to you more than once. This class is not run like any other class you've ever taken, except maybe a drama class. There are different levels of drama classes that are run similar to this. But if you try to do this class like you did, like you've done all of your other classes, you will have trouble with it. And then finally, there's a tool that I will just show you and remind you. I put a little questionnaire together for you to help you critically analyze the parts that you're going to be talking about in your speech and making it a little bit better. I look like I'm in a shadow, don't I? Oh, well, you all don't care what I look like, do you? Say no. I know you only attend classes where the professors are attractive, right? That'd be pretty tough to do. There's not many professors that are attractive. Anyway, this assignment must follow the requirements, the rubrics, and the examples that I give you. The outline must be uploaded to Canvas by Tuesday at 11:59. That's 9/28. You must record and save the video of your speech on the offline source or the online source that you hopefully have used for this assignment, and include a link to your recorded speech at the bottom of the outline, And just a reminder that the videos you link me to, the final graded video, cannot be edited. If you want my feedback for your outlines, make sure you send them to my private email address as either an attachment or send me a link to an online document. A reminder that if you send a link to an online document, make sure that I can edit it. If you send it to me in protected mode or view only mode, I can't do anything with it because just as I recommended to you that you put your comments in context with the document, that's where I want to put my comments in context to your document. DOC, DOCX, RTF format. There's one other thing about the outline that looking at some of them that came through, it appears that I missed saying it. Although one of the reasons why I missed saying it is that this is really the default for assignments. I'm not going to take any points off for it this assignment because apparently I wasn't clear enough. When I look at assignments, if it looks like a significant majority of the class misses the same concept, I take responsibility for that. Either I wasn't clear enough or I forgot to say something, or if most people make exactly the same mistake, then I assume I did something, so I don't grade you. If a minority of students miss something, I assume that they just missed part of the lecture or didn't read the sheet, okay? But all assignments that you turn into me should be at minimum double spaced. If you do not understand the value of double spacing things, and as I said, this is the default for collegiate papers, that everything that you turn in should be double spaced. Today sometime, if you want to really test what's going on here, print out a page in single spacing and another page in double spacing, and then try to read them and see how much more difficult it is to read single spaced material compared to double spaced material. And especially when professors are reading so quickly, and quite often we're not actually reading the entire paper, we're just skimming through looking for keywords and key phrases to see if you've answered the required questions. That really requires some space around it. But the other thing is your professors need a place, they need room to be able to write comments. If everything's single spaced, then the only place to put comments is in the margin. And trying to write a lot of stuff in the margin doesn't work. There's not enough room there. So we need those extra spaces, whether we're doing it with a word processor or by hand. We need that space around everything to be able to put our comments. So as I said, I'm not going to take any points off this time because apparently I was not clear enough with it, but all assignments you turn into me must be at minimum double spaced. Starting with this assignment, we're going to add something called white space as well, but anything you turn into me should be at minimum double spaced, okay? Remember also, if you want feedback from me, make sure you get your document sent to me by Monday, usually by about 5 o'clock. This time, I looked at things later than 5 o'clock. After I had my dinner, I came back and checked again. And then later in the evening before bed, I came and checked again because you're still learning the way the class works, the way I work, that kind of thing. But I'll get tighter and tighter on those kinds of things. I'm pretty easy to get along with, but I'm also not willing to give up, 24 hours, 7 days a week to class. That would mean I'm at work all the time, and that's not acceptable to me. Okay, any questions about the assignment itself before we start getting into the information about how to write it and what needs to be included and that kind of thing?
Yes, Professor Gwynn, as far as the outline goes, do the little marks, for example, 1 and then AB, do the AB count as individual topic sentences? Or
Yes, Yes, those are A and B are outline notations, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the rule is one full content-specific topic sentence per notation, right?
Yes.
So wherever you have a notation, whether it be a Roman numeral, a capital letter, a lowercase letter, Arabic numeral, whatever it is, that is a notation. You have one full content-specific topic sentence there. One of the reasons that people lose this concept is we're learning how to identify central ideas. We're learning how to identify the central meaning of a section. That's what a topic sentence is. And each one of those sentences in the outline is approximately 20 to 30 seconds of speaking time. So you can have too much or too little in the outline, because the number of sentences add up to a certain amount of time. So one of the things that you can do is when you look at your outline, if there's too much, if you look at it and go, 20, 40, 60, 20, 40, 60, 20, 40, 60, oh my God, I'm over time. Then you have to start looking to see what you're doing. Are you actually writing a manuscript? Are you writing a paper and putting A's and B's and ones and twos in front of the sentences? Are you trying to put too much in? Or you haven't yet identified what the central concept of that paragraph is? And by the same token, if you get finished and there's not nearly enough sentences, then you haven't identified enough, or it won't be long enough when you do it. That make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? As normal, we'll be getting finished with this before the end of class. I use the ending of the last parts of class for really additional office hours for students to stay and talk and ask questions or whatever afterwards. So it doesn't bother me if you ask questions in the middle of this. We have plenty of time to get through everything, okay? How many times have I said okay this morning already? It's starting to irritate me. So, I don't know if it's bothering you yet or not. Okay, so the information sheet, that's the one that is too long and starts with the lesson speech, 3 to 4 minutes up at the top of it, okay? So anyway, this is a lesson speech. It's 3 to 4 minutes long. What does that mean to us in this class? Remember that 30 seconds of grace period. I want your speech ending. You are assigned to end your speech between 3 and 4 minutes. But since you're still learning about what adrenaline does to your perception of time, I'll give you 30 seconds outside that 3 to 4 minutes. That means anywhere between 2 minutes and 30 seconds and 4 minutes and 30 seconds is okay. I prefer you're between 3 and 4, but 2:30 to 4:30 is still okay. If you violate that grace period outside, 2:29, 4:31, you will lose 1 full grade. You'll lose 10%. And once again, as I said in the syllabus, that I need to change this. Okay, well, it thinks Brandon's the speaker. That's okay. What was I talking about? Oh, I forgot it. It went away. I was trying to figure out how to get eye contact here a little bit better, because it's my eye contact's up there and that's not right. I look a little crazy. Anyway, so that 30-second violation, you should be finished before 4 minutes. If you can't, if you go a little over, that's okay. But if you go over 4 minutes and 31 seconds, you'll lose 10%. And as I said, not from 100%. I'll grade the assignment regularly, and then from whatever that grade is, I will take a grade off from that. So time is important. Yeah, you're moving into a monochronic society. You have to be able to stay within time frames, okay? So 3 to 4 minutes, that means while you're practicing, excuse me, before you do your final recording, when you're practicing, you should be finishing right about 3.5 minutes, because it's a 3 to 4 minute speech. If you're finishing right in the middle there, you know, not exactly 3.5, but because it'll vary, extemporaneous delivery is a little different every time you do it. So it'll vary a little bit in there. But if you're practicing to finish right about at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, then you have a full minute either way of grace that you can speed up or slow down and still be okay. That percentage will get smaller and smaller as our speeches get longer and longer, because the grace period doesn't change, but the length of the speech changes. You should be getting better. You should be learning how you have to adapt, either intentionally or after you do your first presentation, so that you know your first practice, so that you know how long the presentation is, okay? All right, well, I am washed out. I thought so, but oh, that's because I have paper under there. We'll get to it. All right. This is for the assignment. It's tell us a story about some significant event in your life. We are storytellers. We're the storytelling animal. All people, you know, some are better than others at telling stories, but we are all storytellers. And when you tell a story, if you haven't gotten this from your English or composition classes or creating writing classes, when you tell a story, there is a flow to a story, right? There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, this outline is not introduction, body, conclusion. We haven't read that far in the book yet. I haven't said anything about it. Nobody's taught you what to do in introductions and conclusions. So this one still is not introduction, body, conclusion. It's what's called a narrative, a story organization. But the flow of it is as a story. It develops and goes to an end. So understanding, now right now I haven't gone into it yet, but understanding the storyline here is very, very important for this assignment. If you don't understand the underlying story, if you don't understand the archetype of the story, then it becomes very difficult to follow and to write this assignment. So if the story's not clear to you before we get finished here, make sure you hang out afterwards. Make sure you ask questions in the middle of it here, so that you get an understanding of what the story, the underlying flow of the narrative is, okay? This tells a story about some significant event in your life. Now, that significant event is also important for this, because it is indeed, this class of speech is called the memorable experience speech, and this is a specific type of memorable experience speech. But this is not just something you remember. This is a significant event in your life, okay? And so that significance, the requirements of significance becomes very important as well. It has to have changed your life in some way. And when I say changed your life, I mean it has to have changed your behavior in some way. It's not enough that you remember it. It's not enough that you think something happened. It's not enough that you feel different. It has to have changed your behavior in some way. This goes into the fact, you know, when all humans lie, I don't care what your mommy or your preacher told you, all humans lie. You have lied your entire life. But not only do we lie to other people, we also lie to ourselves. We may believe that we are something, but our behavior shows that that's not true. So what you believe, what you think, what you feel, none of that stuff matters as far as this is concerned. I mean, you may put some of it in there, but for the requirements, you have to get to behavior change. And also, to make sure that this is a significant change in your behavior, that change has to be long-term or permanent changes in your behavior. Sometimes we react to things. If you get a speeding ticket, I don't know if you've gotten a speeding ticket lately, but they are fucking expensive. Okay. Depending upon how fast you were going over the speed limit, you can end up spending $400, $600 on that freaking ticket. And if you haven't gotten a speeding ticket and you drive too fast, know that what I'm saying is real. You could be required to put out $400, $600 just for that silly speeding ticket. And so right after you pay out that $600, it's right on your head because, my God, that was so much cash you had to get out. Then you drive very, very carefully for a little while. But after, a month, you forget about that. Your bills are back being paid. And so you relax a little bit more. 2 months after that, you relax a little bit more. And, 3 months after that, you're driving with one hand and your foot's out the window and you're smoking a bowl or whatever while you're driving. Okay. So that even though it was important and you remember it, your behavior went right back to what you were at the beginning. And so it was not really significant. It was memorable, but it wasn't significant because the change did not stay with you. So one of the things that I've done with this assignment, and it's in the paperwork there, is that I've made an arbitrary limit on this. The event that you identify must have happened at least 2 years ago. Okay, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't care how far back, but it has to be at least 2 years ago. Now, does that mean something truly significant in your life, didn't happen last week? I don't know, and there's no way for us to know until after we figure out whether the change is long-term or permanent. So I'm not devaluing things that happened to you in the last 2 years. I'm just saying you must identify an event that happened at least 2 years ago. Also, the event has to be your event. Okay, oftentimes we change. We're a very gregarious species, okay? And oftentimes we change when we see something happen to someone else, or we learn something based on what somebody else experienced. But it has to be your experience. If Johnny got shot in the street, that was probably very significant to Johnny. But that's not your event, is it? You didn't get shot in the street. Johnny did. What I want to hear is your experience. Were you actually there? Were you standing on the curb? Then you can report your feelings, your experience, what you heard, what you saw, what you experienced, what you felt, okay? But oftentimes, especially with these traumatic kinds of events, you weren't even there for the event. Your event, Johnny got shot, but your event might not have been that because you weren't there. Your event might have been a phone call from your tia about Johnny getting shot. Your event might not be until you visited him in the hospital. Maybe that was your event. Or I don't wish it on anyone, but well, I don't wish getting shot on anyone either. But maybe it didn't happen until the funeral. Your change, the thing that made you different, might have been the funeral, not Johnny getting shot. So Johnny getting shot were things that led up to your event, which was sitting at the funeral and listening to someone or watching or seeing him in the casket or whatever. So make sure that it's your event. It may be that the thing happened to somebody else that triggered your event, but you have to identify your event. Does that make sense? That's how we get to the significance of the event, so that it is indeed important. Okay, this assignment has a required organizational pattern. The first assignment, I know part of the part of the challenge of the self-intro assignment, and I got a lot of emails back and forth about this, and I always do. One of the challenges of the self-introduction assignment is there is almost no guidance for what to say. Okay, it just says find an article, tell us how it relates to you, and talk about one thing in your life. It's a very vague requirement. There was no required organizational pattern. You didn't have to say your name. Matter of fact, for some of you, I recommended you take that out because it wasn't really a topic sentence. It was just exactly what you were going to say. My name is Dave, and I'm 67 years old. That's, first of all, that's a run-on sentence, but also that's not a topic sentence. I'm not going to talk for 30 seconds about how my name is Dave and how old I am. I'm just going to say those words. So that's not a topic sentence. So anyway, we'll get down to what the actual inclusions of the speech should be here. This one has a required organization. It has to follow required steps all the way through it. So it's a whole lot easier as far as critical thinking to put it together in the organization, but it requires a higher level of self-disclosure and a higher level of critical thinking to work on the actual assignment as we get through. So the speech should include: 1, the circumstances leading up to the event; 2, a description of the event; 3, the consequences for the event in your life; and 4, something we can learn from your experience. Circumstances, description, consequences, lesson. 4 main points. Now, since this required organization has 4 main points, in a full sentence or preparation outline, main points are set off by Roman numerals. So that means if this has 4 main points, it's going to have 4 Roman numerals. Not at least 4, it's going to have exactly 4. So you can kind of put this in the notes or make sure you have it clear in your head that if you get finished with your first draft and there are only 3 Roman numerals, it's wrong. Okay. Go back in. Did you skip a step? Did you combine 2 steps together? What happened? How did you end up with only 3 when you have 4 clear steps here in the requirement? By the same token, on the other side, if you get finished with this and you have 5 Roman numerals, it is wrong. Don't turn something in with 3 or 5. Everybody's outline will have 4 Roman numerals to it, okay? Circumstances, description, consequences, and lesson, okay? Now that's not the topic sentence that goes in there. That's what you have to do in that area there. You still have to put a topic sentence together. The circumstances leading up to the event. How did you get to the place? Okay, and when I put place in there, I'm talking about context. And
I have a
there's
question.
yeah.
And the speech should include those 4 steps. Do they only have to be one sentence, or do we have to write a whole paragraph for each Roman numeral?
Well, you shouldn't be writing paragraphs. Remember, these are not papers. These are outlines, but each sentence in your outline represents a paragraph in speaking. You write one sentence in the outline, but you speak the paragraph.
Okay, good.
Okay. When I say get to the place, we're talking about the context. And as you should hopefully remember from both reading in the text and watching the communication process video that I posted for you, you have things that you have the physical context, you have the temporal context, you have the psychological context. You have more than one potential context in there, and there may be more than one context in it. But how did you get to the place where the event happened? Sometimes, as I said, it's physical. We were spending the week in Yosemite, and I woke up in the morning, everybody else was still sleeping, so I decided to take a walk. I walked around the corner and bam, I'm right at the base of El Capitan, okay? So that is physically how you got there, all right? It could be psychologically how you got there. Say you wanted to play soccer, and so in third grade you try it out for the soccer team, and while you were in third grade, and you didn't make the team. So you came back in fifth grade and wanted it again. You thought, I'm going to do it this time. So you tried out for the soccer team and you didn't make it. So you come back in seventh grade and try out for the soccer team and you didn't make it. And then in the summer between seventh and eighth grade, you finally sat down and thought, wait a minute, maybe I should learn how to play soccer before I try out, okay? So that the preparation was all psychological. It was being rejected, being rejected, being rejected, being rejected, and finally figuring out why you were being rejected. So you can find a way around it, right? Or it can be a combination of both physical, psychological, as you're going in there. It was my 21st birthday, and my brother decided to take me out to get me drunk. And I don't know what your upbringing is totally, but I grew up fairly poor here in Southern California. And at least here in Southern California, in my socioeconomic group, when a young man turns 21, we go out, we take him out and get him drunk, okay? It's a rite of passage. So we go out and get him drunk. Matter of fact, the goal really is to get him so drunk, him or her, so drunk that they're going to vomit sometime before the night's out. That you know you've given them a good 21st birthday party when they vomit, okay? So my brother took me to a bar. In the bar, the guys in the bar, the people in the bar also know this rule. So people in the bar start buying the person who's turning 21, they buy them drinks, which really is effective because everybody in the bar is having one drink, but the person during 21 is having a drink with everybody in the bar. So everybody else is having one and he's having 20. Okay, probably not 20, you die. So it's really fairly effective. And anyway, so 2 o'clock came, my brother and I left, and we went out into the parking lot and had to decide who should drive home, okay? That was the circumstances leading up to the event that happened, and that was both psychological and physical. Where I was, what I was doing. I should probably take that a little bit farther until I'm on the freeway. I got to do something for you real quick, though. I don't know if we've talked about roles yet in here. I don't remember doing it last week, but there's more than one you in your head. You know, we're not talking about multiple personality disorders. We're talking about psychological roles in your head. There's not just one you, right? There's you, the student. That's the person who should be here with me now. But there's also you, the sibling, probably, maybe you, the parent, certainly you, the child. There's you, the co-worker. There's you, the church member. There's you, the bowling team member. Those are all different people. They're all different roles in your life. And one of the really interesting things about that concept of roles is that oftentimes those different roles have different rules to live by, don't they? You know, you as a party person is not the same person as you as a worker. They have different requirements, different rules, different roles, okay? And when I start talking about this, one of my alter egos, Uncle Dave, I don't know if I've introduced you to Uncle Dave. Most of the time you speak to Professor Dave. And Professor Dave is an asshole. Just know that right off the bat. Professor Dave doesn't give a crap about you. You know, he has the bar set here, and you have to get past that bar or jump through the hoop or whatever you have to do. He doesn't care if your grandma died. He doesn't care anything about you. Professor Dave is an asshole, but he's mostly in control in the class. However, one of my roles is Uncle Dave, and Uncle Dave loves you, okay? Uncle Dave wants you to do well. When you have a problem, Uncle Dave wants to come up and give you a big old hug and go, "It's okay, everything's fine. You're gonna live. We'll work through it, okay?" And Uncle Dave just jumped up in my head right there when I started talking about deciding who's going to drive, okay? Because I want to say something to you, and this really has nothing to do with school. And that is this deciding who's going to drive, okay? Here's my basic rule and my basic recommendation to you, okay? If you're drinking with somebody else, if you're out with them or at somebody's house and you're drinking with them and they're too drunk to drive, so are you, okay? If you're being a designated driver, you're not drinking with them, okay? But if you're drinking with them and you think they're too drunk to drive, so are you. If you get down, if the discussion even begins, who should drive? Nobody in that group or that discussion should be driving because nobody is sober. As soon as you start deciding who's going to drive, who shouldn't drive, no, you're too fucked up to drive. Well, yeah, I'm okay. I've been doing it a long time. Yeah, nobody should be driving. Okay, call a cab. Call me. I'll come pick you up. Hopefully, you've got some things worked out with a friend. I always in my life had it worked out with more than one person that I could call them at any time, and they could call me at any time, and we would always find a way to get them picked up. Okay, pissed off my my wife a couple of times. She wasn't my wife at the time; she was just a roommate. It did piss her off a couple of times because she had to pick me up more often than I had to pick her up. But we did that. Okay, yeah, I know. The cabs are expensive. Oh my God, I know that. Have you priced a lawyer lately? Okay. Lawyers are going to charge you $450 an hour for their time. And if nothing bad happens, if you don't have an accident and you don't hurt anyone, if you just get arrested for drunk driving, it's going to cost you 10 grand. Okay. That's the overall cost on average, 8 to 10 grand. So it's not worth it. Okay. Get a cab, okay? Anyway, that's your Uncle Dave. He loves you, and he would prefer you not go to jail, have to spend $10,000 or hurt yourself, or God forbid, somebody else, which might be even worse for you, okay? So anyway, the circumstances leading up to the event. How did we get to where the thing happened? Like I said, I have to take it a little bit farther here in the actual speech, because there were still circumstances leading up to the event in that we decided I should drive because my brother was way too drunk. And so I got driving. I was a poor young man in Southern California. I think you understand that that means I was drinking and doing drugs long before I was 21. Okay. Luckily, I lived through that as evidence that I'm here. But I'd been drinking for quite some time before I was 21 years old. Okay. So anyway, we decided I should drive because Mike was way too drunk to drive. So I'm driving up. The bar he took me to was down in Santa Fe Springs, and at the time I was living up in La Puente, and so I was where I'm living now, as a matter of fact. So I was driving northbound on the 605 freeway, and I was really doing fine because I know how to do what's happening here. And as I'm driving northbound on the 605 freeway, a car cut me off. Okay, that physically and psychologically takes me up to the point where the event begins. So the circumstances leading up to the event. The second section is a description of the event. That means tell me with enough detail that I could see what's happening in my mind's eye. If you just say, we had an accident, that doesn't describe the accident to me. You have to talk about what was happening. What did you hear? What did you see? What was step by step going through it, okay? Make sure there's enough detail here. So the event that I'm talking about here, like I said, I'm driving northbound on the 605 freeway, car cuts me off. Did it actually cut me off or not? I don't know for sure. It didn't hit me. It didn't clip me. I didn't hit it. But I perceived it as cutting me off. And so I hit my brakes. Being drunk, I hit my brakes too hard. I locked up the rear wheels. This was a long time ago. There was no anti-lock brakes at that point. So I locked up the wheels. And as soon as the wheels get locked up, then physics takes over and I started sliding the rear end. Now, once again, I told you, I've been driving a long time and I've been driving drunk a long time at this point. So, you know, you steer into the way it's swerving. So if the rear end's going this way, you turn that way. That gets the front end back in front of the car and you can straighten out that way. But being drunk, I overcompensated. I went too far. That caused the rear end to go back the other direction. So I had to recompensate that way. I went back and forth 3 times, finally headed out towards the bushes, got it turned one more time, and then center punched the center divider on the freeway. Now, this was a long time ago. There was no requirement for seat belts. There was no passive restraints. There were no airbags anywhere here. But when I center punched the center divider there, I got to see one of the most amazing things in my life as I watched my brother go through the windshield and over the top of the car. Tell me what happened in the event. Give me enough detail that I can see it in my head. Don't just say something happened. Describe it to me. The third section here is the consequences for the event in your life. I have to give a little bit of a definition here at this point for consequences. Denotatively, these things are not completely different, but for this assignment, I have to make them different. I have to give a connotation to that so that we can make a difference. And I'm going to delineate a difference between consequences and results. I'm going to identify results as short-term or temporary changes in behavior, and I'm going to classify consequences as long-term or permanent behavior. And I have to do that because sometimes you have to tell us the short-term effects for us to be able to understand the long-term effects. But for the assignment, you have to get to long-term or permanent changes in your actual behavior. And you also have to be able to give us an example of that behavior. You can't just say, well, now I love my wife. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. I need to know what you do to let your wife know that you love her. Do you buy her flowers every week? Do you kiss her, tell her you love her every time before you go to bed, and tell her you love her when you wake up in the morning? Do you leave notes around the house? Do you text her in the middle of the day just to say, hey, I was thinking about you? We need examples of the actual behavior. You can't just say you are, or you feel, or you do. We have to get actual examples of the behavior, okay? So you may have to tell us the results, but you have to get to consequences. You have to tell us short-term stuff so we understand, but you have to get to consequences. So as a consequence of this event, or as actual results of this event, I'm arrested for drunk driving. I lose my license for, I forget how long it was now, but I lose my license. I have to go to drug and alcohol classes, way expensive to the lawyer. Had to pay all the money in to the courts over it. Those are all results. They're all short term because I'm 67 years old. That stuff is done. My insurance costs me nothing anymore. I've long since been out of my drug and alcohol classes. I don't even know the lawyer, okay? Once I got finished with him, I didn't want to know him anyway. But those are all short-term changes in my life. The consequence of this event is that I started going skydiving, and I went skydiving at least once a month. Because I remember watching my brother fly through the air as he went over the hood. And I started thinking, what a wonderful, free, and open feeling that must have been to be able to fly. So I wanted to fly. So I started skydiving. I have thousands of dollars worth of equipment, a whole new group of friends. My first wife went skydiving with me. My second wife decided she has a fear of heights. She never went with me. But my life changed and then I went skydiving, okay? And if it hasn't sunk into you yet, I didn't really kill my brother, okay? It's called a hypothetical example. So just so you don't hate me, okay? Certainly I got drunk on my 21st birthday, but it had nothing to do with a bar. I made it up. It's all a lie, okay? It's not a lie. It's a hypothetical example. Anyway, so you don't hate me, don't hate my brother. Now I go skydiving every month because I wanted to feel that free, open feeling of flying through the air, as my brother did, okay? So the consequences in my life. Now, the fourth step, something you can learn or something we can learn from your experience. You obviously learned a lesson. If it changed your behavior, you learned a lesson, okay? But is that lesson the same for your audience? Sometimes it's the same lesson. Sometimes what you learned is what you want the audience to learn. Sometimes it's different because your personal experiences tied together with your social life sometimes changes those things, okay? The third main point is focused on you, what you learned, how you changed your behavior, what you do today to show that that change is permanent, okay? The fourth step is something to teach the audience, something we can learn from your experience. And if you're having difficulty putting that concept together, think about it this way. What can Dave learn from your experience? One of the things I hope you will all learn is that, who was it? Oh, Bill Nye. I think it was Bill Nye that said it, if you are open, you can learn something from everybody. Every person you ever meet in your entire life knows something that you don't. Their life was different. They work a different job. They work a different aspect of the job. They've been to different places. Everybody you ever meet knows something that you don't. You can always learn from somebody else. So if it doesn't work real well, think, what can I teach Dave? What can the old fat white guy learn from my experience, okay? A lesson for you, every cloud has a silver lining, okay? I know, platitudes, kind of strange, but platitudes have meanings that come together for many things like this. Every cloud has a silver lining it offers you a choice at that point, okay? Bad things happen to good people. That's just the nature of reality. Bad things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people as well, right? And good things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. Things happen to people. That's just the nature of life. So bad stuff is going to come into your life. This platitude of every cloud has a silver lining means you get to choose how you respond to that. Are you going to sit around for the rest of your life hiding in a corner? Are you going to kick your own ass for the rest of your life because you made this mistake? Are you going to avoid certain things that you used to enjoy because you made this mistake? Or are you going to learn from it and grow and move on? Every cloud has a silver lining. Lesson for you. So the circumstances lead up to the event. How did you get to the place where the thing happened? A description of the event. Tell me with enough detail so that I can see it. The consequences for the event. How do you behave differently today because that thing happened to you at least 2 years ago? And what can we learn from your experience? A lesson for the rest of us. That's the story that I talked about at the beginning. This is the underlying story that you're going to be telling. I was living my life. While I was living my life, this particular thing happened to me. Since this thing happened to me, I am who I am today because that made me, that changed me. And here's something you can take away from my experience. I was living my life. This thing happened to me. Now I am who I am. This is what I do. Here's something that can help you. That's the story. That's the narrative that I said you have to have clear in your head. Now, this is the underlying narrative. Your information is going to go on top of it. The example that I put together for you here was my 21st birthday, having the accident, going skydiving, and helping you understand the concept that it's up to you how you decide to react to things. So that's the universe, that's the individual part or the unique part. The underlying universal part is this: I was living my life, something happened, I am who I am today, and here's something you can learn. Is that storyline clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If that's not clear, make sure you talk to me before we leave here. Okay. It is imperative that you understand that story. There's some other things I'm going to do for you before the end, but that's extremely important. Okay, moving down. Substructures required in at least one of the main points in your outline. What in the world does that mean? What's substructure in an outline? We know that you're going to have 4 Roman numerals, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, because of the 4 main points in this organization, required organization. But you must have substructure in at least one of those main points. That means you have to have at least capital A and capital B in at least one of your main points. You can't just have the 4 sentences like we had in the last one. This is a longer speech. You have to have more sentences in there, more topic sentences, and you have a required organization for the main points. So the only place you can put more sentences is in substructure. So you must have an A and a B, at least A and B. You might have a C, but at least an A and a B in at least one of your main points. However, you cannot have substructure in all of your main points. If you had substructure in all of your main points, that would be 3, 6, 9, 12 sentences. And if you spoke for even 20 seconds on each one of those 12 sentences, the speech would be too long. So you cannot have substructure in all main points, but you must have substructure in at least one of those main points. That make sense?
Yes.
Okay, the general purpose must be identified at the top of the outline. When we get to the actual outline example, I'll show you exactly where it goes, but you have to identify the general purpose at the top of the outline. And the only way you can identify the general purpose is by first going to the textbook, finding the sections. There's actually 2 sections that talk about general purposes in the textbook. Go to the index and find general purpose, and then go to those pages and read about general purposes. You have to understand the general purposes, and then you have to analyze what you're doing in this speech. I would wait until I was done with the actual speech itself, the outline itself, before I started thinking about the general purpose. When we do speeches, normally we do it the opposite direction, but this is you learning how to do it, so it's different. You have to identify you have to analyze what you're doing, compare it to the definitions of the general purpose, and decide what the general purpose is, because there is a correct answer. Okay, And actually, since we're using Steve's book for this semester, for this class, it's pretty, you have a 50-50 shot. Steve only identifies 2 general purposes. Most of the rest of the field identifies at least 3 general purposes. Some of them obviously more, but Steve is pretty rare in identifying only 2 general purposes. So you really have a 50-50 shot if you find general purposes and start to understand them. But to know what the right one is, you have to understand it, and you have to analyze what you're doing. And then when we get to the outline, I'll show you where the general purpose must be put. Oh, here's a clue for you. General purposes are 2 words long. They're not a sentence. They're not a clause. They're 2 words long. So that'll help you when you get into the area, okay? And you can't make it up. You have to get it from the textbook, okay? The speech should be delivered extemporaneously, like you did this last one. Brief notes which occupy more than one side of a single 4x6 index card. Once again, you can have 1 card. It can be up to 4x6 inches in size, and you can have notes on only one side of it. Once again, this note card, keywords and sentence fragments only on this. In our next one, we're going to start adding more stuff into our speaking notes, into our note cards. But for this one, once again, keywords and sentence fragments only. Typed outline must be turned in. And I hope you've already started noticing there is no source here. This is pure analysis and critical thinking in your own head. And you should probably, hopefully, enjoy the hell out of this, because normally in college, we don't care what you think. Sometimes we'll ask you to do, an opinion paper, but most of the time we don't care what you think. I want to know, do you remember and understand what was in the text, what was in lecture? Can you apply what was in text and what was in lecture to the assignment? Those kinds of things. We don't really care what you think. But for this one, it's straight out of your own head. There are no sources here. I don't want you looking up anything. This is just sitting down and thinking, okay? How to do this? Any questions before I move on to the next little section here? I know sometimes I start going too fast.
Yes, so as far as writing down the general purpose, is it okay if it's, would you just like it underneath the title per se?
Yeah, when we get to the outline, there is a place for it to go. Yeah, I would put it under the title, but there's a place for it. We'll get to it when we get to the outline, okay?
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, I told you how to write the first assignment, right? Find the artifact, find the newspaper or magazine from the day or week you were born, skim through it until your reticular activator fires off. Once your reticular activator fires, answer yourself, why did I notice that thing? Once you identify that, then tell us about it in your outline, okay? So I told you how to do it. I know it was pretty vague. It was designed to be vague as we get through there. So I'm also going to tell you how to write this one. I'm going to give you fairly good instructions for this one because it's a more complex speech as we go through here. But have I mentioned that I hate your English teachers?
No, I
Okay.
don't think you've mentioned that.
I absolutely hate your English teachers, although I don't blame your English teachers. They have dumbed down high school so much to try to get the grade average up. Because we are now comparing ourselves to the rest of the world, and oh my God, we've slipped from 3rd place to 7th place. We need to get those numbers back up and shit. They've moved so far into that, that star testing, that special testing, all that crap you've been through in your life, that they've forgotten some very significant things that we used to teach. That central idea, that I know one of the reasons why many of you are having troubles with this concept of a topic sentence is because they're not teaching central ideas anymore. in high school, and that's so important to writing a good paper, understanding what the central idea is. It's not the thesis statement. That's an entirely different tool. So I hate your English teachers because they're messing you up. They're not giving you the things you need. But at the same time, I don't blame them for it. It's the system that's making it happen. Okay. So anyway, I hate your English teachers because I know that your English teachers taught you how to write a paper. And this is not a paper, but the example will flow through and you'll be able to understand it better. I know that you were taught to write a paper, writing the introduction, then the body, and then the conclusion. That's the way they taught you to write a paper. And unfortunately, that is absolutely wrong. That's not how you write a paper. When I went to graduate school, I was amazed how many of my fellow graduate students still didn't know how to construct a paper correctly. They've got bachelor's degrees and they still didn't know how to construct a paper correctly. They were just writing what I call, shotguns, where they just throw everything they know onto the paper and hope that the right answers are in there. That's not how you write a paper. Okay. And so I'm going to teach you the correct way to write a paper. And if you get nothing else from today than this, you got your money's worth for today, because this will help you get better grades in all of the rest of any class where you have to write a paper. If you internalize this, you'll get better grades. Okay. Because when you write a paper correctly, you have to start with a working thesis. Okay. You're either assigned the thesis or you make up your own thesis, right? So you start with a working thesis, and it's only a working thesis at this point. Your thesis may change unless it's assigned. If you're assigned, you have to write about this, then you're stuck with it. But if it's your creative work, then it's a working thesis. You can go back and change your thesis after you started writing. You don't have to be stuck with that thesis statement. So anyway, you have to have a working thesis to begin with. But once you have a working thesis, then you go and do some research and get an idea of what's going to be going into the paper. And then you write an outline of the body. You decide what you're going to talk about, what order you're going to write about, what order you're going to write about it as you do that. And then you write the body. You write the body before you do anything else. Once you write the body, then you go back and write the beginning. You write the introduction at that point. The main reason for that is it's much, much easier to write an introduction that leads into something that's already existing. If you know what your paper is and you have identified and clarified your thesis statement, then it's very easy to write the introduction to get into that place. Because if you just start writing the introduction, you don't know where you're going. If you have the body, now you know where you're going when you write the introduction. So it's much easier and much more effective to write the body first and then write the introduction. And then finally you go and you write the conclusion, because there are some things that you can't write the conclusion before the introduction, because there are some things in the conclusion that must refer back to things that are in the introduction. So when you write the paper, you write research, thesis statement, research, outline, body, introduction, conclusion. Now you turn it in introduction, body, conclusion, but you write it body, introduction, conclusion. If you do this, your papers will get so much better, so much more concise, follow more logical flows. You'll get better grades. Okay. Anyway, why in the hell did I teach you that? Besides, I love you and I want you to get good grades. Okay. It's because that concept applies to this assignment, even though this assignment does not have an introduction a body or conclusion. It's all body, okay? And you're going to find more examples of that as we move through this semester here. But it's all body. But the best way to do this is to write the second main point first. Don't even think about the circumstances leading up to the event until you have finished working on the description of the event. Because first you have to identify an event that happened at least 2 years ago that was your event that changed your behavior in some way. You have to sit down and think back through your life and identify something that's still operating in your life today, okay? Now, once you identify that event, then you have to make sure that it is a discrete event. Now, what that means is you know the beginning of the event and you know the ending of the event. The event started here, the event ended here. That makes it as a discrete event in your life. If you do not have clearly identified in your mind the beginning and the ending of the event, you have not yet identified an event. You've just identified some section in the analog narrative of your life, okay? So make sure that once you've identified the event and it's your event and it's happened at least 2 years ago, that it is a unique, a discrete event. You know the beginning and the ending of that event. Once you start looking at the beginning and the ending of the event, now you have to make sure that the event is short enough, that you've identified a short enough time to be able to describe it to us in less than 2 minutes. Actually, probably less than a minute. But what does that mean? Your life may have changed. I had El Capitan on my head earlier. Your life may have changed on your trip to Yosemite. The first time you went to Yosemite, the first time you were in the quote wilderness, and I have to put quotes in there because it's not wilderness anymore, but they still call it that. Okay, wilderness means untouched by humans. There's no changes whatsoever, and Yosemite's got roads and inns and snack bars. It's not wilderness anyway, but it's different than living in the city, right? So anyway, your life changed on your trip to Yosemite, but you were in Yosemite for 9 days, weren't you? Can you describe in detail 9 days to me in less than 3 minutes? It's not possible. You can say something happened on the trip, but that's not describing it, is it? Remember, you have to describe it. So you have to figure out where on your trip to Yosemite did the actual event happen, okay? The example I used of El Capitan, you walked up and bam, there's El Cap right in front of you. And if you don't know what El Capitan is, understand, I don't have words for this. It is a humongous rock. It's a gigantic rock, and it's a rock. It actually started as a Pluton, but anyway, it's a rock there. And it's even more impressive when you realize that sheer face is there because it's only part of the rock. That even though this rock is so big, I don't have words for it, part of the rock's gone. It used to be bigger. Anyway, so you get to the base of El Capitan and you look up and go, fuck me, man, I ain't nothing. I'm this teeny tiny little thing on the earth. Right? Because all humans, I just wrote about this the other day, all humans suffer from delusions of grandeur. Myself, all of you, everybody you know, suffer from delusions of grandeur. We think we are these amazingly powerful creatures because when we make a change in our life or do something dramatic in our life, everybody around us is affected by that. So what we see makes us feel like we're really something amazing. But we're really not. We're these teeny tiny little carbon-based life forms on the face of a huge planet, which of course is in a gigantic solar system, which is part of a galaxy that the numbers are so big and so wide. Once again, our mind breaks down. We can't grasp these things very well. So that realization that I ain't crap on this world, it takes about 20 seconds, maybe even a little less than that, 10 seconds. You can describe that for me in less than 3 minutes. So make sure you know that it's short enough and what it is, because once again, it may not even have happened while you were in Yosemite. The realization may have been, or your event may have been while you were driving home. Everybody was asleep in the car, you were driving, and you just started thinking back over the last 9 days. And as you thought back over the last 9 days, you solidified and put together a thought or a belief from something that changed you. So the event wasn't even while you were still at Yosemite. The event was as you were driving home from Yosemite. So identify the event, make sure it's at least 2 years ago at your event. Make sure you know the beginning and the ending of the event, and make sure the event that you've identified at the beginning and ending is short enough, is small enough to be able to describe to us. If you do that well and you understand the narrative, then writing this speech is a piece of cake. Now that's a little bit of work, a little bit of thought work ahead of sitting down and actually writing. But if you do those two things well, this speech writes itself for you, basically. It is very, very easy. If you don't do those two things well, then it becomes muddled, it becomes difficult to find a flow, and the logic fails, okay? So once you've done all that with the event, now you can go back and write the circumstances leading up to the event. Because just like in the paper, if you know where you're going, if you know where the beginning of the event was, it's very easy to figure out how you got there. Physically, psychologically, combination thereof. How did you get to the start of the event? And then you already have the event put together in your mind. Then you sit down and go, okay, once you've already identified this, and that's what the last thing we're going to talk about here. I'm not going to talk in depth, but the questionnaire that I put together for you, that is stuff that helps your critical thinking work at the beginning before you even start writing anything. Because remember, this speech is critical thinking and analysis out of your own brain. That means you have to do some critical thinking and analysis before you start writing. Okay, don't hope you can develop it once you're writing. Do the mental work first, and it's a piece of cake, okay? Does that make sense? That's
Yeah.
the best way to write this presentation. And keep in mind, that's also the best way to write your page. I'm making motions down here where you can't even see it. It's so crazy. Down here, okay? Okay. We're going to be adding a concept called white space in this outline. Now, I talked earlier about everything that you turn into me has to be at least double spaced. Obviously, I missed making that clear early on, but I'm making it crystal clear, and I've said it more than once, and it's in the paperwork now. All of your assignments that you turn into me must be at minimum double spaced. In addition, in this outline, we're going to add something called white space. White space is simply negative or empty space in an outline. If you've already started putting a resume together, you should understand the concept of white space, because you have certain sections, abilities, skills, previous employment, hopes and dreams, I don't know, whatever, publications. And in between each one of those sections, there's blank space that visually separates this from that. White space helps us visually organize information. And white space is really easy to work with, especially at this level. Since you are going to set your word processor up to do double spacing, So you don't have to constantly remember to hit space, space. Set it up from the beginning that it always will do double spacing when you're doing college work. And when you get to the area where there's supposed to be white space, instead of hitting enter once, you're going to hit enter twice. Boom, boom. So instead of double space, you now have double space. And double will visually look wider and whiter than where the text is, because the text will be double spaced. The white space will be double. It doesn't need to be huge. It just needs to be visually different. And for this one, double. That's all what white space means, okay? Any questions about the requirements of the assignment itself?
What did you say the substructure meant again?
Substructure is additional paragraphs in a section. If you have just the topic sentence at the Roman numeral, that whole section should be approximately 30 seconds long. If you speak for 90 seconds in a section, then you have to have more sentences there because you need one for each 30 seconds. And so you need A and B. This should be support subordinate to Roman numeral, the Roman numeral it's under.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You bet. Oh, do I want to talk about this now? No, I'll talk about it at the end. Okay, let's move on to then the example of the outline. And you can see it's laid out very clearly as double spaced with white space in between the main points. This one is learning how to identify where to put that kind of stuff. In our next outline, you're going to use this white space to show me that you understand the concept. So for here, just figure out to do it where you're told, quote unquote. And on the next one, you're going to put it where it belongs. So once again, every assignment gets more complex, more work, okay?
Excuse me, sir.
About the lesson structure?
Go ahead. Yep,
Okay.
two people talk, so you have to say it again.
Oh, that if you're talking about the lesson structure.
Yeah, we're talking about the example lesson structure, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So, where do we have to leave the white space?
Do you have the page pulled up?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Remember, I asked you to either have printouts or to pull up in a separate window the documents for the module. Are you
Okay.
looking at the example that I'm talking about?
Example, yes.
Okay, when you look at it there, do you see where the white space is?
Not really. So
Okay.
general purpose.
Everywhere where there is writing, it's double spaced, right?
Yeah.
And then in between them is extra white space.
So you mean like between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4?
Between B and 2, between 2B and 3, between 3B and 4.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're visually separating the main points on here. Once again, folks, you know, all the paperwork that I'm putting out here for you, you should have this available while you're working on your assignment. You don't read it once and then try to remember it, because your memory will fail you, especially if you only read it once. Use the actual assignment. Write it back and forth. When you write something, look and go, what am I supposed to do here? Oh, that. And then you write it and you go back and forth here. The next outline is going to be so much more complex. I'm going to recommend you go line by line from the
Another
example.
question. I thought you said to only put A and B to one of the full topic sentences.
That's right. Did you read the words that are there
Which words?
at A and B?
Yeah. Oh, you said okay.
It
Yeah.
says maybe.
Okay.
because you have to decide where it goes. Everybody's outline has the potential of being a little bit different from somebody else's outline, because it's not, I'm not assigning you where the substructure goes. It depends on your presentation. If you only speak for 30 seconds, then you don't need any substructure in that section. If you speak for 90 seconds in that point, then you need substructure in that section. So there's a potential that people will be putting at different places. So I have it on here always. Maybe you'll have one full sentence here.
And you did say it has to be A and B, right? It can't just be A.
Yeah, you always have to have at least two at any level of subordination. That's not just my requirement, that's outlining requirements. Whenever you do an outline, you have to have at least two entries at any level. If you only have one, then you're not supporting it enough. You have to have at least two to make sure you have a logical flow and you're supporting the superior point. I know I'm using words like superior and subordinate, and once again, I know that your frickin' English teachers didn't teach you this stuff. It's another reason why I hate them. Hopefully I'll explain it to you enough by the time we get through here that it will make sense to you, even though your teacher didn't do it for you. Okay, so once again, getting into it, you have your name somewhere at the top. I don't care if it's, once again, these are not papers. I'm not looking for headings. I'm not looking for that kind of stuff. These are outlines to let me know what you're going to say so I can check between your outline and your actual speech if you did it or not, okay? So your name, a content-specific title, and then left justified there underneath it, general purpose, colon, and that's where you fill in the general purpose. As I said, it's 2 words, so you're going to type right in there, general purpose, colon, space, space, 2 words to identify what the general purpose is. And then we go right into Roman numeral number 1. Trust me, by the time we get finished with the next outline, we're going to have all kinds of crap between the title and Roman numeral number 1, because in the next one, we'll be putting in more components and we'll be doing an introduction. So there'll be lots of stuff between that. The Roman numerals set off main points in the body. They don't set off things in the introduction. And this is one of the problems that Steve has in his text. Anyway, Roman numeral number 1, 1 full content specific topic sentence, right? My brother got me drunk on my 21st birthday. That would be the topic sentence for the first section of my example speech. Then, will there be substructure? Maybe. It depends on whether you talk for a long time there or not. You should start this outline with just the 4 Roman numerals. Don't try to fill the whole thing out first because you haven't fleshed it out yet. Start with just the 4 Roman numerals, stand up and practice it the first time. And keep track of the time. Figure out where you talk for a long time and where you talk for a short time. Because where you talk for a long time, that's where you need to put the substructure. And where you talk for a short time, that's where you don't put substructure. So once again, start with only 4, practice it, and then come back and add the substructure where you need it. When you get to the bottom of B, that's where the first white space comes in. So you hit enter where you're typing, and then when you hit B, enter to get a little bit of space. Roman numeral number 2, same thing, 3, 4, all the way through. And then of course at the bottom, a link to your recorded video. Does the outline make sense to you?
Yes.
As you're doing your outline, as you're writing yours, pull this up and compare it to what you've written. If what you're writing doesn't look like this, then it's not correct. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to get up here in a second, but let me just get the last thing here. Well, there's one more concept that we'd have to get through. So you know what? I'm gonna take a break. I have to take a break. I'm an old man and apparently had something that is a little diuretic. Anyway, So if this was a normal class, I would be giving you all a 10-minute break because I have to go potty. But for now, go grab yourself a cup of coffee or whatever you need. I will be back in just a moment. You can, no, the snake's not out. You can't even look at the snake while I'm gone. Man, how often do you get a break in an online class? Oh, well. Go to the bathroom, wash your hands, and no oil left in your hands. Can't handle papers. Luckily, there's Lubriderm. Okay, is everybody back? Like you left, huh?
We're here.
Okay, if you're not here, raise your hand. Oh, look, everybody's here. Okay, good. All right, the last sheet that we're working with here is the worksheet, the questionnaire. And this is not, you're not going to turn this into me. This is a tool I developed working through the years with people doing this assignment. And once again, this assignment's been around for years. I've been using it for years. I developed this questionnaire to help your critical thinking process before you start writing. There's a series of questions here. What was the event? That means, have you identified a specific event? Is it your event, or are you talking about something that happened to somebody else? You know, you have to figure out where you come into it. Was it at least 2 years ago? Can you identify the beginning and the end? Is the event short? How do you act differently today? Give us an example of that. Can you give us an example? And what do you want to teach us? These are the things to think about, and you can use this to write your ideas down, whether you're typing or writing by hand. But you go through this example, or you go through this questionnaire before you start writing anything. First, sit down and think of the event, identify an event from your past. We'll talk a little bit more about that before I let you go. But once you sit down and think through that, and start making the decisions about where it is and what you think everything's going to be, then sit down with this questionnaire and see if you can clearly and concisely answer each one of the questions here. If you understand the story, do a good job identifying the event, and go through this questionnaire, once you start writing, it will just flow from you, okay? Any questions about anything that I've spoken about so far? I've got one more thing to deal with here. Okay, when you sit down and start thinking about this event, one of the things that we know about the human mind, and we've been studying it for a long time, although I just read a statement the other day that it said, I don't remember who said it, but they said, if the human mind was simple enough for us to understand it, then we would be too simple to be able to understand it anyway. So, but we do know some things about the human mind, quite a bit about the human mind, although we may never completely understand the human mind. One of the things we know about the human mind is that it retains and recalls negative or painful things, memories, better, more efficiently than retaining and recalling positive memories, okay? The human brain is just wired that way. It's real easy to understand. In your own mind, just think about this. What is more important for you to remember? Where the fruit tree grows or where the tiger lives? Which of these things is more important to remember, to keep track of? It's much more important to remember where the tiger lives, because if you forget where the tiger lives, you die, right? Whereas if you forget where the fruit tree grows, you got another 30 days to find something else to eat. It takes people on average 30 days to starve to death. So the human brain developed to maintain, record, and keep fresh negative or painful memories, okay? Now, what that means to you is when you sit down and start thinking about this assignment, when you start thinking back through your life about what kinds of things have happened to you and how that's changed you, the vast majority of you are going to identify negative or painful experiences. Now, this does not mean that your life has sucked, okay? It just means that you're better at retaining and recalling those bad things, okay? You're hardwired to do that. So as you're going, now if you remember positive, the next few minutes means nothing to you, but the vast majority of you are going to remember painful or negative events. If you identify a negative or a painful event from your past, there's a couple of things that you have to do. First of all, you have to decide, do you want to share that event with me and ultimately with the class? Because I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect up, as I talked about last week, I'm going to collect up all the links and I'm going to post them in the module so that everybody can see everybody else's speech. You're not working totally in isolation there, although you're not watching it for grading. You're going to be able to see what everybody else is doing as well, so you don't feel so isolated out there. So the vast majority of you are going to identify a negative or painful. You have to decide, do I want to share this with the class? Because if it's too painful, or if the statute of limitations hasn't run out, whatever, I guess maybe. Anyway, if you don't want to share it with the class, then don't. Okay, put that one away and sit down and think about something else that happened in your life. You have, I guarantee you, you have thousands of events recorded in your mind in one form or another. If you don't want to share it for whatever reason, then don't. This assignment does not say, tell us about the most important thing in your life. It says, just tell us about something that's been significant, that changed your behavior in some way. It can be a simple shift in behavior as long as it is a shift in behavior, okay? So if you decide you don't want to share this event, then stop and think of something else to talk about. Also, you have to decide, do I want to get some separation for this? And the first one is really intuitive. You know, it's too embarrassing. You know, I did a horrible thing I don't want anybody else to know about yet. I need to work through this with my therapist for whatever. I don't care. The first one is really easy to understand. The second one here is not quite as easy to understand, because some things hurt good, don't they? And I'm not talking about BDSM, okay? Some things hurt good. Putting those words together sounds a little strange, but start thinking about it. There are some things in your life that have been painful or negative, but they resulted in a very positive effect in your life. Some things hurt good. Sometimes the pain allows you to remember that person better, or to help you feel like you wouldn't forget them. So sometimes the pain hurts good. If the pain of this negative event hurts good, then you need to make a second decision. Do you want some of that pain to go away? Because this assignment requires you to take a step back from the event, to step away from the emotional response, the feelings of it, and critically analyze what happened. And by doing the critical analysis, it will cause you to hurt less. So if you want the hurt, then you can't use it as an example here. One of my younger brothers died of complications to leukemia. And I use the pain of his death. It was prolonged, it was painful. I spent the last 3 weeks of my life and his life in the room with him. I use that emotion that comes up. It's coming up right now. When I talk to people about getting registered as bone marrow donors, you know, fill out the form, check the number when you donate blood, become registered, because we were unable to find a donor for my brother, and he died at 30 years old, leaving a wife and a 10-year-old daughter here. So I use that hurts good for me here, okay? So I wouldn't use that for this because I want the pain. I'm doing too much already for it. So if you decide you want it to keep hurting as much as it did, then don't do that. Don't do this assignment for it, because this assignment makes you take a step back and critically analyze it. It's very similar. I don't know if any of you are interested in counseling or psychiatry, psychology at this point, but this assignment, this format is very simple, or very similar to what is called Gestalt or confrontational type therapy. This is one of the things you've often seen examples on TV and movie where they sit down with a therapist and the therapist takes them back through their life, finding events in their life that fuck them up, and then bringing that event to their mind, talking about what it's making them do today, which usually is negative rather than positives in our lives here with assignment, and then finding ways to fix it, okay? Very, very similar to Gestalt or confrontational therapy. So by doing the critical analysis, you will hurt less, okay? So if you don't want the hurt to go away, don't use it. If you're hurting from something and you are willing to do this, I want you to also to understand this is not enough. If you have something in your life that is hurting so badly that is it affecting your behavior today, you really need to get in and talk to somebody about it. You need to get in, get with a counselor, get with a psychologist, and talk to them. This will give you a little separation, but it will not fix it all, okay? If you want it fixed, go work on it and get it fixed, okay? They'll do more than a 4-minute presentation on it, okay? So if you decide, if you identify a negative and you decide, yes, I'm willing to share that with this class, and I'm okay if I get a little bit of separation, then I'm going to give you a couple of recommendations. First of all, practice out loud more than you think you need to. I know I've already made that recommendation to you on one ways to deal with communication apprehension. But for this one, if it's a painful memory, it's imperative you practice out loud more than you think you need to. The reason for that is we get emotions we feel emotions when we hear stories. One of the reasons why people enjoy reading books, one of the reasons why people enjoy watching movies, even TikToks, is because when we watch the story, when we hear the story, when we perceive the storyline, we feel emotions from that, okay? And if you have not practiced out loud enough, then when you first start doing it, and you'll notice this the first time you do it probably, the first time you start talking, you start telling your painful memory, remember, you have to listen to what you're saying, don't you? Those aren't just words coming out here and flowing free. You're decoding them. You're analyzing them the whole time. So you're listening to your painful memory. And when you hear that painful memory, you're going to react at an emotional level, aren't you? Because we get emotions from that. So you're going to react at an emotional level. And when you react at the emotional level, guess what? That emotion is going to come out in your voice, isn't it? And when that emotion comes out in your voice, you're going to hear it. It's going to come in your ear. And when you hear this new higher level of emotion, you're going to react to the new level. And when you react to the new level of emotion, you're going to hear that again. And when you hear that again, you're going to react again. And before you know it, you're going to be sitting there, tears coming out of your eyes and snot from your nose. And I'm going to give you a bad grade. I'm going to give you the bad grade because I know you did not listen to me. You did not practice out loud more than you think you need to. Every time you say it out loud, it's another exposure to the stimulus, right? And remember, systematic desensitization, every time you're exposed to the stimulus, your reaction to that stimulus becomes lessened. And you have to get your reaction lessened to the point where you can tell the story without breaking down. Does that make sense? Okay. So practice more than you think you need to. The second recommendation I'm going to make to you, I would love for you to do this in all of your speeches, especially because we're online here. Find somebody to listen to you tell your speech. Listen to you practice this assignment, okay? I would love for you to be able to get your friends together. Everybody gets together and does speeches. Maybe you could share with each other and identify and meet at each other's houses or whatever to practice your speeches one night. But get somebody, friends, Romans, countrymen. If nobody loves you, make spaghetti, put a plate of tamales together, something, and give them dinner to get them there. Because another place that we get emotion from is from other people's faces. Okay? If you hang out with sad people, even if nothing happened to you, after a little while, you start feeling sad because you're seeing sad faces all around you. If you hang out with angry people, you start to feel angry, not because you were wronged, but because everybody around you has angry faces. And so by seeing faces show emotion, we feel those emotions, we empathize with those emotions, okay? And when you start telling your story, you have to be prepared for faces reacting to your story. Now, since we're online here, you're not going to see those reactions from your peers. I want you to feel that so you know how to control it, you know what to do with it when you do speeches out in the world. Because this is not the last place you're going to do speeches. You're going to get speeches in and not all, but in many of your other classes in college, especially in your upper divisions. But if you go into graduate school, you definitely are going to be doing lots of presentations. And when you leave school and go out get to work, you're going to be doing presentations. Okay, your minimum goal here for coming to college is to get to the level of at least middle management. Nobody comes to college so they can sit in a cubicle somewhere and be told what to do. So you're going to be giving training seminars, you're going to be giving speeches, orientations, you're going to be doing speeches the rest of your life. So even though we don't have the classroom environment here that gives you the same response, you can practice it with people. And since this one triggers a very specific and powerful thing, having an audience listen to you will help a significant amount for you. So just so you know what it feels like when you go to do something else later in life. So you sit down, identify the event from your life. Most of you, it will be negative. If it is a negative, first of all, decide, do you want to share it? And are you willing to get some separation? If you decide yes and yes, then practice more than you need to out loud so you can hear yourself telling the story, and practice in front of an audience so you can feel some of that stuff, okay? That makes sense for you?
Yes.
Okay. Get started on this right away. The vast majority of students, if they sit down in a quiet spot where they don't have distractions going and think through this, and then sit and fill out that questionnaire that I've given you, the average student takes about 60 minutes, a little bit less than 60 minutes, to get that first preparation work done, okay? So get that done. Got a hair fly in there, okay. So get that done so that you can put the first draft together of your outline, so you can send that to me so I can look at it. This has specific requirements in specific sections. So it's more critical, it's more difficult to put together. If you get my feedback, I'll help you get a better grade. If you don't, I'll give you whatever grade you earn, good or bad. Not everybody gets bad grades, but I can guarantee you it'll be better if you send it to me, okay? Remember, on Friday, I have office hours for you at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. Come talk to me. Hopefully you've gotten something done by then. It's another thing about waiting till the weekend. If you come up with questions, then you have to try to do it through email. And email takes a lot longer than just talking in an office hour. So get it done as you can. Anything else from you before I let you fly free into the cosmos?
Excuse me, sir.
Uh-huh.
Have you posted about those questionnaires somewhere?
Uh-huh.
I mean, like,
It's-
you already
It's in
posted.
the module. If you go to week 4 module, the lesson speech, you will find 4 documents there. One of them is the questionnaire.
Oh, the last one. Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Yep.
And everybody, you should be using those documents when you're writing the presentation. Those are all the things that I measure when I grade. So if you use them, you'll make sure that you put everything in that's necessary. Beyond that, all you have to remember is double space everything, 1 full content-specific topic sentence per notation, at least 2 in any level of subordination. And if you get all of that stuff going in there, then you're going to be getting good grades. Stay in the time frame. Anything else?
Question.
Yeah.
Did you already grade the last assignment or not yet?
The speech?
Yeah.
No, not yet. I won't do that until tomorrow because the assignment is open until tonight for late assignments. There's still some people that did not turn them in yet. So I leave, even though it's late and people are going to lose points, I leave it open until tonight. And then after everything is in there, then I'll sit down and grade them all at once.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So it'll be sometime after tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Anything else?
Wait, I have another question.
No problem. Cool. I was just about to say, anything else? Come on.
I'll just wait until after actually.
Okay. It's your decision. Okay, anything from anybody else before I say sayonara?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to beginning the speech, like how could you give us like an example how to start it?
Sure. It was my 21st birthday.
Oh, so simple.
My family and I went to Yosemite. We were going swimming for my 6-year-old birthday. Yeah, nothing fancy. One of the things that that you're illustrating with that question here, think about literature, think about movies, think about things that you've seen, especially good ones. You know, how do they start? They just start. It was a dark and stormy night. Call me Ishmael. You know, they just start like that. They don't warm up. They don't announce that they're going to start. They just start with the story, especially a narrative. You don't have to prepare them to hear the story. As soon as you start telling the story, they will listen. If you do the story well, you'll get them in there. Not only are we storytellers, we are story listeners as well. That's how we do how we spend our lives. Anything else?
Yes, Professor Nguyen, do the changes to our behavior have to be positive necessarily?
Well, it just has to be something that you do differently today still. And if you're still doing something negative, I'm not quite sure how that would work. But usually when you learn a lesson, it ends up being would be judged as positive, but there's no requirement for it to be that way. It's just that the structure of the narrative kind of leads you that direction. As long as it satisfies the requirements of the assignment, I don't care.
Thank you.
You bet.
I have a question. You said we could send the draft to you, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I recommend that. Highly recommend that. I guarantee you people that sent them to me got better grades than if they didn't send it to me. Because I told them all what to do exactly. This is a run-on. This is a comma splice. There's too many sentences here. I mean, I told them exactly what to do. In this one, because it has more content requirement on it, I'll be making more comments about content. I don't see this in my mind. You haven't shown me an example here. You're still talking about you in the fourth main point, right? Third point's about you. Fourth point's about your audience. Anything else?
Do we have to include like A's and B's under 1s and 2s? Or
You
can we
have-
just,
You have to have substructure in at least one of your main points, but you cannot have substructure in all of your main points.
main points means like only for one and then like,
Main points are set off by Roman numerals. So for this one, you're going to have 4 Roman numerals, and you have to have A and B under at least one of those Roman numerals. But you cannot have it under all 4 Roman numerals.
oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
You got it. Anything else? Need to put your pictures down here so I could just look right here rather than up. I'm obviously not a, what do they call them? I don't know, this YouTube people that do everything. Influencers, that's what they call them. I'm obviously not much of a YouTube influencer. I don't look right into my camera all the time. I like people. I want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to me. I know what I'm saying. Anything else from you? All right, go write these. Get on it right now if you're not at work, which you shouldn't be. But get on it right now. Like I said, it should take you less than 60 minutes to get the initial thoughts and critical thinking done, maybe even getting the whole questionnaire answered on here. And then you'll be able to finish this off very rapidly, and that will give you plenty of time to send me rough drafts, okay? Thanks a lot. We are done as far as I'm concerned. If you have a personal question you want to hang out for, or you just want to talk about whatever, I will stay here with you as long as you want me to stay with you, but you are now free to leave.
Thank you. Bye.
A
You're
nice
welcome.
day.
See y'all later.
Thank you, Professor. Have a nice day.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a nice day,
Thank
Professor.
you.
You bet. Rats leaving a sinking ship, huh? Okay, there are still 5 of you in the room. Can I help you? 4 of you? You're welcome. You bet. Very little chatting went on in this one. There was like three things to chat. So Carolina, Amy, Ryan, are you here? Are you thinking about what you want to ask me or talk about, or are you asleep?
No, I was gonna stay because I thought someone else was gonna ask something.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Just sometimes, especially this with these 7:05 classes, the students just fall asleep sometimes.
Yeah, that happened a few times last time. Thank you. Have a nice one.
You bet. I try yelling at them and try to wake them up, but if I can't wake them up, I just shut down. Okay, Carolina, Ryan, anything?